Welcome to another episode of Devil's Eve with Ghoulish Cop. Long time no see. I'm back, ready to do some Halloween, and my first video in about 7, 8 months is on how I built my facade. When I started planning the facade, I drew out some sketches of what I wanted it to look like. So this picture here is an overview of my yard and how I figured the facade would fit around my front stairs, across the front yard, stuff like that. This is a head-on view of what the facade would look like, at least is what I hoped it would look like. Ultimately, I waited about a month before Halloween to decide to start building this, and I went to a local make and take group, and I began putting together. Here you can see I have the gable and one of the side pieces attached, and here the second one is attached. Now these are bolted in at the top uh, for ease of removal, so it can be stored. It's a modular design, and I have here the archway section. So it's a four-piece section just for the front, and as I said, it's all breaks down so I can store it compactly. Here you can see I built out the towers. They're the two U-shaped pieces on either side of the gable holding it up. It provides stability and future scare spots. Here's a close-up, just lets you see a little bit better how I made the two towers, like I said, as I call them, and how they're attached. Now these are actually screwed in, not bolted. Now the Davis graveyard, their ruined abbey that you see here, they've really served as my inspiration, along with Hollywood Haunter and their ghost town that they made for Halloween this year. To attach their rigid foam insulation to their framing, the Davises use these plastic discs from a company called Demand Products. They screw into the foam, into the framing, and they provide a wider surface rather than just like a screw itself to hold it, and you don't have to worry about the screw pulling out. But this actually turned out to be a rather pricey solution to the problem of holding it onto the framing. I ended up finding this at Home Depot. It's a roofing nail. I imagine it's to hold on the roofing paper onto a roof when you put a new one down. And it's a plastic cap with a nail through it. And it's a much cheaper solution. It's like $5 for a pound of a pound box. So it was much cheaper than the $30 to $60 of the Demand Products plastic discs, and it actually worked pretty good. Sometimes you could drive a screw right through the cap, but as you can see here, I started attaching the foam to the gable, and it held quite well. At another make and take group, I started finishing up skinning the facade, as you can see here. And in this photo, you see this piece of plywood that ended up stabilizing the facade while I was doing the work, because wind can catch it and turn it into a sail, and this stopped that from happening. One more design element I had here was to create a tunnel effect. I didn't think a 1-inch thick wall was very believable, so by creating a tunnel as you entered underneath the facade, would give it a more believability. A couple of different options I considered, and then I decided upon using lattice. I figured this would enable me to hang vines or moss or something like that from there, and also allow me to put lighting behind it and have it shine through, and perhaps give me some interesting shadow effects on the sides once it was completed and lit up. As I mentioned, that piece of plywood helped stabilize the facade so it wouldn't fall over, but it also gave me an idea as to how I might be able to do that without having a piece of plywood as a finished product. And this was a buttress I ended up building onto the front of the facade, and there's one on the other side as well. And I figured between the towers and this buttress, it should be stable enough to hold and not blow over. And as you can see, I attached the second one, cut off the foam off the bottom, and attached it to the framing. But as you'll also notice, this has a plywood back and a plywood bottom. It provided some more weight to the buttresses and made it easier actually to attach it to the facade itself. These are bolted in with 4 bolts on each side, and it's easily accessible from the back, which is open. So these are attached first. The front of the facade is then attached to the buttresses. The sides go up, the arch goes up, and then the gable goes up, and it all ties together then. And this provides a lot more stability for the whole facade. Here's just a close-up showing the bolt attaching the buttress to the facade. And as I said, it's open to the back, so it's easily attached and removed. Here I've begun skinning the buttresses, and that's what I show you here. I then topped it off with some 2-inch thick foam that I had to make it look like a thick stone, a limestone, something like that, a covering for it. Then I began laying out the brickwork, as you can see here. I used a story stick, which is basically a long pole with a series of tick marks on it, so that when you line it up against an edge of the facade, you can mark off all the brickwork, and no matter where you go around the facade, it'll all match up and won't be running all askew everywhere else. In theory, anyway, and it worked out for the most part with some minor adjustments. On the gable here, I started carving the bricks, as you can see. And the process that I used was first I carved it out with a wood burning tool to make the grout lines. And then I went over with a wire brush to give the grout lines an aged look. And how I did it was holding the wire brush at a 45-degree angle. I dragged it across the previously burned in grout line and did that about 3 times, then flipped it over, and at the other edge of the 45-degree angle, did it that way. So you were making a V-shaped grout line. And as I said, I found that about 3 pulls in each direction worked best for it. So this was the progress picture. And then you can also see the design element that I added to the facade, the Gothic window. This is the Gothic window completed, and the brickwork completed as well, just on the gable portion of it. And that's just some foam pipe insulation to make it appear that it's been carved out. And then just a few more design elements, the stonework around the window and around the eaves of the gable. Around the archway itself, I considered a couple of different design options and ultimately went with the carved brick look. And as you notice along the top there, it actually looks like it's notched out. Well, that's how I did it. I figured a straight line might make it too obvious that there was a seam there in between the bottom portion of the facade and the gable. By notching it out, I figured it would hide it a little bit better to the eye, and trick the eye a little bit. And so by notching it out and doing the same thing on the gable part, it's able to blend in a little bit better than it otherwise would have. What I wanted to show here is that you can see no longer are the orange caps, plastic caps being used. I ended up finding it a much easier and even cheaper solution to attaching the foam insulation to the framing, and that's using a simple fender washer. So what I did was, as I prepared to carve all the brick, I removed the old caps and installed the fender washers. And it's just a much, much better solution. And should you do something like that and you want to attach the insulation to framing, use a fender washer. Here I've begun the process of painting the base coat onto the facade. It's 2 coats of a light color, like a cream color, and that's basically what the grout line is going to be colored as. I've decided that I want to do a little bit different than most people and not have the black with dark grout lines, but go with a lighter one. So this is the base coat, and it's also the stonework, not the brick, but the stonework color as well. And here's the flat work, also getting the same treatment uh, with the base coat put on it, and using a sprayer with a compressor made it really quick work. The next step was to begin actually painting the brickwork. I thought this was going to be the longest part. It turned out to be the quickest. Basically, I got the brick color that I wanted and put it in a pan, and using a regular household sponge that I bought at a dollar store, I laid the sponge in flat on the paint, picked it up, dabbed it off a little bit, and then pressed it onto the brick. Didn't drag it, but actually just pressed and pulled up. And since the sponge was a little bit smaller than the brick, I had to do that maybe twice. But it created this effect, which I thought was pretty effective as a brick. I then added a couple of different colored bricks in there, one a brownish color, another more of a burnt umber. Just a brickwork that I've seen has like not a uniform color to it. And this was the finished product. Despite having added the buttresses to the facade to make it more stable, I still wasn't comfortable with it being able to withstand the strong winds that we get here in October, and fearing that it might topple over on top of a trick-or-treater, I decided to cable it into the ground. I used a dog run screw, and it's just basically a big screw that you screw into the ground, and then I attached a cable to that and bolted it into the back of the facade on either side. And that held it in place. And we just had some strong winds yesterday, and it held it super tight, didn't go anywhere. So I was very happy with how it worked out with that. So here are just a few finished project photos uh, with it up in front of my house. It provides a platform for me to build upon in the future. I plan on putting walls out to either side, and I think I'll just be going out and not up. Unlike the Davises, I don't have a team of people working with me, so it's just me putting this together. And 12 feet tall is actually pretty challenging to put together. So I don't think I'll be going much higher than this. And but as I said, it does give me the opportunity to build out on it. So we'll be doing more projects around the facade over the coming year. So thanks for watching, and it's good to be back haunting.